evening. Howdy, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to Bulls Night After Party. We're going to be talking about today's feast day and then also the Pope's new encyclical, Encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia.
Yeah. But before we do, I think we want to open with one of the prayers from the encyclical.
Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Lord, Father of our human family, you created all human beings equal in dignity. Pour forth into our hearts a fraternal spirit, and inspire in us a dream of renewed encounter, dialogue, justice, and peace. Move us to create healthier societies and a more dignified world, a world without hunger, poverty, violence, and war. May our hearts be open to all the peoples and nations of the earth. May we recognize the goodness and beauty that you have sown in each of us, and thus forge bonds of unity, common projects, and shared dreams. Amen.
So, for any people viewing that had the same question that I had when you said, we're going to talk about the Pope's new encyclical, what's an encyclical?
So the Pope can do lots of things. So that he's the head of a country. He's a monarch. He's a bishop. He's sits in the chair of Peter. So he has kind of the judicial, the executive, and the legislative branches of the government for the Catholic Church and for the Vatican City State. That means on matters of like church, he can do anything he wants. So in how he can exercise that, he has kind of a little hierarchy of documents he can write. And how the documents are labeled gives you an idea of what to do with it. So generally speaking, an encyclical is just another word for a letter. And it's a letter sent to the bishops. So all of his brother bishops. But it's an open letter intended for all of the faithful to kind of read, chew on, in that he'll use it as exercising his teaching office. Mm-hmm. So he could, as the Pope, make a dogma. He could make a doctrine of the faith saying, this is what it is. He writes out on a piece of paper and makes it a dogma of the church. Only one Pope has ever done that, and that was for the Immaculate Conception. Then, like, there's other ones that are like, hey, this is a part of our faith, but it's just like one step below of being declared a dogma of the faith. So, for instance, John Paul II did that when he was talking about the male priesthood. You know, it's like, this is part of our faith. It belongs to our deposit of faith, but maybe not. He stopped short of saying, like, this is how it is to be essentially incorporated into the creed of what we believe. Then comes, say, now you get down to, like, saying an encyclical, as in, hey, everybody, this is a very serious topic. I want to teach us on it, but it's not a matter of the salvation of your souls, depending on your placing your faith in this teaching. Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, these documents go from the idea or the principle down to the practical, so that the more particular the church speaks on something, the less universal it applies as a general rule. And so for instance, Paul, you're not allowed to receive communion. It's like, okay, well, that would be a document too, but that only applies to you. It doesn't apply to everybody else, right? Versus, I want everybody to stop and think about this, or I need everybody to believe this, and then I need everybody to understand that this is essential for your salvation. You know, and so those types of documents. So this is Pope Francis's third encyclical. So we can think of it as his highest teaching level, and then he's written other documents which are on a lower teaching level, which is, hey, let's have a discussion about this. I want to bring up the topic. I need to hear what you're thinking, but don't take like, oh, well, the Pope said it, so therefore this is how it is, right? It's intended to. No, we need to talk about it, but I want to give a framework for how we talk about it. Okay. So this one being encyclical. Another one, like his last one before this, was Amoris Laetitia, which was on marriage. And he brought up the kind of question of marriage or remarriage, and like you got a divorce, remarried, well, communion, how does that work? And he brought up some very questionable topics. Lots of people are debating, but it was an exhortation, as in, hey guys, we got a lot of people who fall into this category. Let's take it seriously. And it's supposed to be that because it's at that level of document. It's not, saying like this is how it is. So this is so this encyclical is one that's going to be intended teaching about social issues, and then a little bit of an exhortation on what to do about it. Very broad strokes of things, and so it's not on that particular side of it. It's more on the big principle teaching side of it.
Yeah, so he's not giving us. He's teaching us about like what should our response be to some of the things that he talks about in there,
Right.
Which you said are social issues. So what is Pope Francis saying in the encyclical in the new one?
So it's going to take a little time to digest it, but kind of broad strokes, it is that in our kind of one big world we're all living in, there are lots of pockets of isolated, separated, overlooked people, in that this is a kind of a state of harm in our world today that we can't ignore, in that the path of healing that is going to be one, noticing that, searching those people out, and then he spends a lot of time talking about the importance of bringing dialogue into our politics, and understanding the need for that everyone on this planet is my brother and my sister, and treating them as such. And so that's the kind of English translation of the title is we're all brothers and sisters. And so just kind of with that principle, it's meant to be a little more of like what's going on today, as opposed to just in general, like, hey, am I my brother's keeper? It's a little bit of like, well, of course you should probably already know that, but just in case you didn't know that, let me explain it. And then particularly in our day and age, there's going to be some need for addressing these things.
These encyclicals and like the lower teachings kind of help inform how we live into the dogmas of the faith. It's a really wonderful way of like, okay, this is a beautiful way of saying like our faith, but how do I actually live this out? And this is like kind of helping us extract from that. Okay, how do I do this in my daily life? And one thing I was reading the encyclical and also reading like just something that somebody wrote about the encyclical.
Sparknotes version?
Pretty much, yeah. And one of the things that I noticed was actually something that Anna had said a while back about like what she does in her house, and it's that there is no them, like it's all we, like we or like my brother or my sister, like there is no other, and like that's the way that they speak in their house, in order to kind of show forth the like this person has humanity and like has dignity, and so we can't just call them them. It's like, yes, they might not do what we want them to do, but they are dignified and beautiful in the eyes of God. So I thought that was really cool, and I was like, Anna's beautiful.
That's interesting how it sounds like what we were talking about maybe 2 weeks ago, about the like not addressing problems within ourselves, but just being like the problem is outside of us.
Right.
In identifying it there and then leaving it out there.
Yep. Exactly.
Yep.
So we also are celebrating a feast day today, Saint Xavier of the Cross.
Saint Francis Xavier.
Saint Francis Xavier of the
Yes.
Cross, and I believe did I butcher it a second time?
Of the cross.
I don't. I mean, I'm sure he had a cross
he
with him
probably
at
did,
some
yeah.
point, but I don't think that's part of his name.
That's okay. I never mind.
No worries.
He's patron saint of missionaries, yes?
Yes.
Yes,
Any interesting timing relating to the release of the encyclical?
So it actually came out a little bit earlier.
It came out on St. Francis's feast day.
St. Francis feast day. And so a very novel thing that Pope Francis has been doing is using non-Latin words for the titles.
Mm-hmm.
So Fratelli Tutti is actually quoting St. Francis, which is also what he did for Laudato Si, because all papal documents are all written in Latin and then translated to whatever language.
Mm-hmm.
And so so that they have Italian titles is a little more like bringing things into the vernacular. And so doing that intentionally, but for both of those encyclicals, he's quoting his namesake, St. Francis. When he first announced his name, there was some confusion because they just said Francis. Well, I was like, okay, which St. Francis? So nobody really knew who the inspiration was that he wanted to follow. Apparently, at the conclave, when he said, because when you're elected, I was out of town during the time, so I didn't actually see this in person.
Yes, you do.
But when you're elected, once there's a majority vote, they stop counting votes, like as soon as you reach that level, and everybody stops and turns to you, and you're asked, do you accept? And if you say yes, from that moment you're the Holy Father. And then the next thing they ask you is, what name do you take? And you have all of 2 seconds to figure it out if you hadn't already thought of this. And so he said Francis.
He just gave himself the liberty to choose later.
Yes. But apparently what he said right after Francis of Assisi.
Mm.
And so apparently everybody in the room knew that. But just when they announced him, they just said Francis, and everybody else was like, okay, which?
Which one?
And so that he was a Jesuit. Francis Xavier was one of the founders of the Jesuits, missionary. It's like very good candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And so certainly somebody he would be familiar with, but and is Francis of Assisi.
Pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
And there was something from the Office of Readings today that I would like to share because it was really, really beautiful, and we've talked about it a couple of times today. And I think it definitely ties into the brothers and sisters we all are.
Are you gonna give a context, or you want me to?
You can go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a big fan of Francis Xavier. So he went to this new institution called the University of Paris, and it was there he came across Saint Ignatius, and in the midst of his learning, he felt the call to join this newly starting community, and so Ignatius of Loyola and Saint Francis Xavier, both holy men, started this new community, but they actually didn't like each other. Which I think is also wonderful for an idea of well, what does holiness and community look like? It's like you don't actually have to like the other person, but how much you can still grow in holiness there, and certainly they collaborated, but it also might be a little more reasonable why Francis Xavier took the trip to India to go to the other side of the planet, and so. A little detail I always like to throw out is they founded the Company of Jesus. So this community was started primarily doing missionary work. Got very estranged against the Portuguese in South America, and for political reasons were kind of conspired against, and
Yes.
I mean, it's very low, but it's almost
Questions
not
from the
even.
audience.
What's that?
Questions from the audience.
Yeah.
So the question is the Pope's general audience a lower teaching? And yes, that is.
I mean, it wouldn't even qualify as a teaching. Yeah. So Francis Xavier is doing missionary work, and he's writing a letter back to Saint Ignatius of Loyola, letting know about what's going on. And they were suppressed. So that was the end of the Company of Jesus. And we have a group of people called Jesuits. They were restarted much later. And they took on the name Society of Jesus, and they primarily focus on education instead of missionary work. So, well, not in their minds, very much in my mind, these are two different orders. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But this letter is one of my favorite letters.
It's so the little title in here is "Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel." He says this is also a letter between to Saint Ignatius by Saint Francis Xavier. He says, "We have visited the villages of the new converts who accepted the Christian religion a few years ago. No Portuguese live here. The country is so utterly barren and poor. The native Christians have no priests. They know only that they are Christians. There is nobody to say Mass for them, nobody to teach them the Creed, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, and the commandments of God's law. I have not stopped since the day I arrived. I conscientiously made the rounds of the villages. I bathed in the sacred waters all the children who had not yet been baptized. This means that I have purified a very large number of children, so young that, as the saying goes, they could not tell their right hand from their left. The older children would not let me say my office or eat or sleep until I taught them one prayer or another. Then I began to understand. The kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. I could not refuse so devout a request without failing in devotion myself. I taught them, first, the confession of faith in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, then the Apostles' Creed, the Our Father, and Hail Mary. I noticed among them persons of great intelligence. If only someone could educate them in the Christian way of life, I have no doubt that they would make excellent Christians. Many, many people hereabouts are not becoming Christians for one reason only. There is nobody to make them Christians. Again and again, I have thought of going round to the universities of Europe, especially Paris, and everywhere crying out like a madman, riveting the attention of those with more learning than charity. What a tragedy! How many souls are being shut out of heaven and falling into hell thanks to you? I wish they would work as hard at this as they do at their books, and so settle their account with God for their learning and the talents entrusted to them. This thought would certainly stir most of them to meditate on spiritual realities, to listen actively to what God is saying to them. They would forget their own desires, their human affairs, and give themselves over entirely to God's will and His choice. They would cry out with all their hearts, Lord, I am here. What do you want me to do? Send me anywhere you like, even to India. So I think that's just the idea of we are all brothers and sisters. If we take that seriously, this is what needs to happen. To say to our brothers and sisters who are not preaching the gospel, who know the gospel but are not living it out, or even those that are unaware of the blessings of being able to learn. You ought to share this love with others, and recognize the dignity of the others, and to say with all their heart, Lord, I am here. What do you want me to do? The radical nature of that yes is that's super amazing. I just as I was reading the encyclical, read this morning and was like, okay, that ties in quite well. I didn't know much about St. Francis Xavier before today. He's a pretty cool guy. He did a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Words on that?
The impact of air conditioning.
Okay.
Stick with me here.
Yes.
I'm
Go for it.
following.
One of my mentors, Monsignor John Sipple, a very holy man, one of our retired priests, spiritual guru. He's just he's forgotten more wisdom than I possess, and
pretty sure he baptized me.
He's baptized a lot of people, so I would not doubt it. So he was telling a story about his mom and trying to take care of his mom when she got an elder state and like making decisions and stuff. And it's like, hey, Mom, there's this new thing called air conditioning. Like we can like install it in your house. Like she lives here in like St. Pete, and she was like, no, like I don't want air conditioning. And it was just like she's lived her entire life without it, didn't want to switch to it, and he knew the benefits of it and wanted her to have it, but there was a profound shift that she pointed out to him because she could also see her neighbors when they got air conditioning. Is because naturally, just as these windows are little trellis windows, they tilt out so you can get an airflow because it's just a little sweat box otherwise. So everybody starts closing their windows. And people would sit out on their porches in the evening. And now you sit inside. And you go for a walk and suddenly like you never see your neighbors anymore because they got air conditioning. And that it just started closing it. And it was actually because one of her neighbors was murdered is why she decided to get air conditioning. It wasn't for the comfort of climate control. It was so that she could lock her windows. And it starts like pulling apart and separating. And then a little bit after that comes interstates for a wonderful invention of the car. And you can bypass everything. And so instead of like going Tamiami Trail, passing through every small town, you can now just not see anything and arrive at the destination of where you want to go. And what used to be people along and exposed to a main fare are now just little isolated pockets. And then you have, say, Suitcase City right over here. Everybody knows where it is and how to avoid it. And it just like there are people who are hurting and pain, like struggling, and we have the ability with ease to do what we need to do without even having to see. And then we have suburbia, the further development, because we had interstates that can go further out. Well, then we can actually even remove ourselves from the whole neighborhood so that their problems don't spill over into ours. And then in our suburbia, we can put little gated communities where we can make our own little pockets of how we want to live.
And HOAs.
Yeah.
the
Well, yeah.
HOAs, yes.
It's a police Karens.
It's a two-edged sword. But this is not how the encyclical talks about it. But to be a missionary is like you do not have to go very far. And another one of my priest mentors reminded me, whenever you get to a parish, you have to look for the poor. Like they're in your parish because they're your boundaries. And it's like people will show themselves, make them known to you, but you also have to go looking for them. So it's just like back of your mind, drive the neighborhoods, find out where every neighborhood is, and it's like where's the crack house, where's the all the problem areas, so that you know and don't like hide from yourself just because you get busy with other things, even in your good intentions. These marginalized and now hidden people that we don't even see the problem. It doesn't make them not there. It's just we've developed, even for lots of good intentions, ways of removing ourselves from it. And so I think even just like the awareness of like they're out there, go looking for them, and I don't necessarily need to protect myself from it. It's like India was there the whole time. It wasn't until St. Francis Xavier that people started going there. And then it's just like they are so hungry for what we have to give and it's only for one reason alone, we don't take the time to do it. And just like on, most importantly, the level of the gospel, but on many levels, is like that's true. And there's much we can do.
And then when we do, we find those that, like that St. Francis Xavier was talking about. There's those that, if only someone could educate them in the Christian life, like we could be that person. I have no doubt that they would make excellent Christians if only they knew, and if only like we were the ones to go and do it. And then it's like, okay, why not? Why not go out and do it? Because what we're going to find is people who are thirsting for something more because they don't know it, they don't have it. And what a beautiful mission that we ignore so often. But it's like they're the people that need us and that need Jesus through us the most.
Very, very interesting. I don't know much of a response. I didn't know anything about Saint Francis Xavier. So.
Pretty cool guy. Patron of the missions, along with Teresa of Lisieux.
A little flower.
Mm-hmm.
Who never left her cloister.
Never left her cloister.
Yep.
So, I guess with that, then we have reached the point of the episode where we put up the spoiler alerts.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Bongo head.
This guy now has a name.
This guy now has a name. Which,
Spoilers.
spoiler alert. Carly doesn't like it.
Don't like it at all.
Why do you not like the name Grogu?
It's not as cute as him. Like, it's just not as cute.
It is an ugly name.
It's an ugly name. And
So is he. Like, he's a cute thing, but he's like unconventionally cute.
yeah. And the name is not unconventionally
Yeah,
cute.
but
It's
like
just ugly.
Yoda, like fits a
Yoda's
wrinkly
kind of
old-
cute.
Yeah,
Why?
because of the sound of the name.
Okay. So I think Grogu fits that just as much as Yoda fits that.
The G's doesn't fit.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, at least it's not R's. R's are the most menacing of letters. That's why it's murder, not
and
muck duck.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
I mean, there is an R in there though. Grogu.
Yeah.
Yeah. He needs like a B in his name.
Yeah, because you know,
Grogu.
like, baby or something like that, like Baby Yoda, maybe that would have been a great name for him.
No.
Brobu.
Brobu. Yeah, see, that's kind of cute. I just think they. I think that they just like built it up so much for a season and a half to really kind of let us down with the way that it was given and then also just the name itself.
Well, then what did you expect if that was like a letdown for how we like uncovered stuff about Baby Yoda?
I mean, it was
So
just
this is all my point. It's just gonna be Baby Yoda.
yeah.
Just
there's
like
no
they
way.
unveiled Mando's name, but his name is still Mando.
Well, so that's the other thing is the characters who he interacts with are meeting him for the first time, minus a handful of people.
Yeah.
So like, all they're gonna know him as is, hey, you're wearing Mandalorian armor.
Right.
Like they refer to any Mandalorian they see as Mandalorian
Right.
Or Mando.
or Mando. But
Yes.
so like, that's not unconventional in the sense that I think you're right. Like, they'll refer to this guy as whatever he refers to.
No, I mean us, like
Oh,
culture of like
No.
it. The spirit of the people is going to reject this name.
Then I think the spirit of the people would have
And the
rejected
sense
any
of the
name.
faithful
I mean, it could
means
be.
something. It means something.
Doesn't that?
She studied
Yes.
fundamental theology.
I am
so-
studying fundamental theology. The sense of the faithful is important. It has to be accepted.
Yes, and has been rejected.
So I think in that case it would have been rejected regardless of what it was.
I don't know.
Like unless you made it Yoba.
Brobu, I think is pretty good.
I like that better. We'll just call him Brobu.
Brobu.
So
Eric doesn't like
rewinding
that.
because we missed 2 episodes.
Yes.
Yes, we kind of.
Okay, just shot right.
Can on the name? Can I just throw out there?
Yeah.
It's a little like Jedi mind meld thing where you got this secret knowledge of like telepathically they talk to each other. there's still space for like
Maybe that was.
they could change it.
Yeah. Like maybe that was just him babbling, and it's not actually his name.
No, I think that was pretty definitive. This is the name of this person. Like,
I'm
In
sure
her
they're gonna
mind.
stick with it,
Yeah.
but
What?
there is the space to still change it.
I don't think there's a space for that.
If they can bring back somebody who's been chopped down in half and thrown down a bottomless pit, there's space to change his name when he didn't actually hear it spoken out of the character.
All right.
Okay.
First episode.
Rewind. You don't know. I'm stuck on this. All right. Synopsis. They went back to the planet that the first season took place mostly on, and they fought off the Empire who had a base there. They fought it. They realized that it wasn't like a weapons hold, but rather it was a laboratory to experiment on midichlorians inside of people. Presumably, actually no, they pretty much got it out of a transmission. They were testing Grogu's blood and being able to transmit midichlorians to other people to create other force-sensitive people. Presumably, Moff Gideon is trying to turn himself, I think, into a Sith Lord.
Interesting.
Slash
That's your theory.
that's a pretty good theory. I
Well,
think.
what about all of the like figures and armor at the very last part in the black armor?
Yeah, I don't know. Good stormtroopers, ones I can shoot. I don't
How
know.
does that fit in?
Those are Death Troopers, right?
So
Those are like off-brand, great value stormtroopers. That's all that I saw.
Because they needed a lot of midichlorians, and which is why they were going for Baby Yoda.
Grogu.
And so it's like,
Grogu?
okay, if it's
The
just for
giant.
one person, I mean, theoretically, how much would that actually take? But if it's for an army,
mm-hmm.
that would make a lot of sense.
Also, they just need to get it right in the first place. And granted, the reason I say that is also Moff Gideon's presumably selfish nature. Like, yeah, you can make an army, but like, why make an army of people who are more powerful than you? Make yourself powerful.
I do feel like he
To
is
make a
going
weaker
for
armor.
a Darth Vader vibe.
Yeah.
So I could see some of that, but the black troopers, to me it seems how they set it up is that it's more for powering that army.
So the other thing about like what would the capabilities of an entire force-sensitive army be? Like, anything we've seen in Star Wars universe, we haven't seen like a mass use of the Force together.
Yeah.
Like, aside from Attack of the Clones, you don't see a lot of Force users in the same place.
Right.
And even then, that seems very underwhelming. Like, they all pretty much just got massacred by a bunch of droids.
Right.
Like, that's kind of pathetic.
Yes.
So I think he's trying to make himself very, very powerful.
It could be, but part of the power is like Darth Vader still had troops.
What?
They weren't force sensitive.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like he might be trying to make himself personally
Yeah.
powerful. But even if he was, he still needs good troops as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it all by yourself.
Yeah. And if they can't shoot, then.
So
So that was that episode. Back to this. I don't think I was let down in any way by the reveal or by what went down and
I'm
what
glad
happened.
you weren't, because it was ruined for us.
But why?
He deserves better than that. That's
Okay,
all
so
I'm gonna say.
you're just worried about the name.
Yeah.
So no,
And also-
what I'm concerned about is how he survived the purge of the Jedi Temple.
Okay. So you just don't like that they didn't give much explanation on that?
I'm not saying I like or dislike. This is just questions in my mind.
It left us with more questions than answers.
I mean, I don't like the name Grogu, but
So I mean, it also left us with what we expected could have been the conclusion of the Mandalorian's quest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not ending, going further, which you said all along. You're like, we're not gonna get rid of Baby Yoda. Like,
right,
That's the money.
that's the show.
Yeah.
right,
That's all the merchandise.
yes,
Yeah. But so then going further, it's like, okay, well now we have Quest Part 2.
Mhm.
And if you're going to have Quest Part 2, you need questions that Quest Part 2 is going to answer.
right,
Like, if they just said, here's who saved him, I don't know where they are, you can either go and find them or go to the Jedi Temple and do this. Well, now you have the potential of go to the Jedi Temple, have Grogu activate it, and then, summon everything to you. Bad guys, good guys, like, you can, anybody who Star Wars has named as alive, boom, Grogu,
Right.
Then you have way more villains, heroes, and everything to encounter.
Yes. But there is a Jedi out there who's trying to reestablish the Jedi Order in this period of the timeline.
Yeah.
Who's Luke Skywalker.
Right, but he couldn't have been the one to have saved Grogu.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as like the termination of the quest, then would lead to another kind of serious question, which is, what did Grogu then go to the Jedi Temple where Ben then recruited and slaughtered everybody else?
That's what I think overall is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then he
How do you
doesn't
feel
survive.
about that?
He deserves a better end than that.
He doesn't survive slaughtering part 2.
Yeah. So
You can't survive
just on the run and
Jedi Texas
Poor baby
chainsaw
Yoda.
lightsaber massacre.
This is so sad.
This is so sad. It's
It's
what
so
needs to
sad.
happen. I've said that I don't think the characters are meant to have a significant weight in the cinematic universe of the Star Wars. You can't add that in now.
Right.
Hence, the small screen stays on the small screen.
right.
The big screen stays on the big screen.
Right. So he can become a huge pivotal player in the Star Wars universe.
What is interesting though, that something I watched talked about was like, in worlds that you have the concept of the chosen one, you sometimes have the concept of like the unchosen one.
Right.
In that Grogu could be the unchosen one of the Star Wars universe, that presumably Anakin and also Grogu would be around the same age, if he's 50 years old, and they're both highly powerful Force users, that potentially Grogu would have been the chosen one had Anakin not entered the picture. And so, same thing in like the Harry Potter universe, you have Neville and Harry, born on the same night. Well, one of them is the chosen one, the other one is the unchosen one.
Right.
And it just happened to be where the story took them.
Yeah.
But then also that he still might play like the unchosen ones typically still have a good story. In that they've made this character to create the unchosen one of the Star Wars universe.
That's possible. I think you could have another destiny as well, which is he goes back into his self-suppression of his Jedi, goes back into hiding so that they can pull him back up post end of Palpatine's era.
So you think that they might create series?
Or they
for
bring
sure.
him into the movies later, like, and more stuff they want to do further in the timeline, because the character will have the longevity to be alive that long.
Yeah.
So they could put him back on ice again until they want to bring him back, and it's like, okay, well now he's going to become a Jedi and be a pivotal.
So you could see the Council of Jedis, and you'll have Grogu, and you'll have Rey Skywalker, and
right.
It's like really convenient.
Finn.
Yeah.
But I can
guess.
see that
Finn.
happening. Yeah, Finn. That's a random one, please.
Yeah.
I mean, he's force sensitive.
Right.
It's like I was gonna make a poorly timed Kobe joke.
So I could see that happening too. Instead of dying at
At the
in
hands of Ben.
Skywalker's, yeah.
I think small screen will stay small screen. I don't know anything. They might milk the franchise again for another trilogy, but I also
I
don't
think it
think
depends
that's
on
gonna
how
happen.
much it makes, and so I think we should just buy all the Baby Yoda things we possibly can so that they keep him alive.
That's true. But also like, who is villain? Who are they gonna set up as the next villain of this if they create a 10, 11, 12?
I don't know, but as far as like the Mandalorian goes, I think they are raising up a better villain for the season.
So it's just a theory that came up in my mind right now.
Okay.
So the reason that what is her name that was the Jedi that wouldn't drink?
Hermione Granger.
No. The
Ahsoka
name
Tano?
Ahsoka Tano.
Same thing.
Ahsoka Tano. The reason that she wouldn't train Baby Yoda
Yeah.
was because he was too emotional. Like, he had too many emotional attachments.
Yeah.
And that
Are we gonna
this
see
is-
Darth Grogu?
This is
So he got
this is
such a
my
menacing
thought.
name.
Maybe he becomes the force to be reckoned with.
But
The force to be may the force to be reckoned with be with you.
Just a theory. I don't know.
may the reckoning come upon you.
The reckoning.
Now, there's another character that was brought up that we haven't talked about yet, though.
Admiral Zhao
Zhao.
of the Fire Nation.
I am the
What
the
was it?
Grand Admiral now.
Grand, I'm the Grand Admiral now.
Grand
What's the
Admiral
actual name?
Thrawn.
Thrawn, son of Thrain. I just got that.
That was good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's actually from Lord of the Rings.
I don't remember what it is. I don't think it's Thrawn. It's something, but
Thrawn, son of Thrain, son of Thor, king under the mountain.
Thor and Oakenshield.
Thorin. I think that.
Thorin.
Yeah, it's not Thrawn. It's
Thorin
Thorin.
Oakenshield.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So
Good
close.
job.
So Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Mhm.
So who's he?
So I believe he showed up in the Clone Wars,
So I heard it was Rebels.
Rebels,
Both.
something like that.
Both? Okay.
But I did not watch those.
No.
What I was familiar with the character from the original, like, expanded Star Wars universe novels. They were the first ones to come out,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember waiting as a very young man on the third installment of the trilogy to come out to find out how the New Republic was going to fare against Grand Admiral Thrawn, and it got me hooked on the expanded Star Wars universe. So all of that has been thrown out, but they did take the character and bring him into Rebels and stuff like that. So what I know of the character, I would say it's just like the character in general, as far as like how he fits in a story. I have no idea, other than an alien who is in the Imperial Navy is a very unique thing, and that he would become a Grand Admiral. They don't have aliens.
No, but
They're
Navy?
races. Navy.
Yeah.
As opposed to Space Force?
Mhm.
It's
Same thing.
yes. Space Navy. Space
Spavy.
Wizard. And so that he is a master tactician and really kind of hidden and somebody at work in the background. To me, my guess in this was that this is the biggest leader into where does the New Order get all of its ships and stuff like that, so that he's going to be a stepping stone into the New Order.
It's interesting. This is reminiscent to me of the CW superhero shows. So you have season 1 of the Arrow came out first, then season 2 of the Arrow. You introduce Barry Allen into the Arrow for like 2 episodes, and then you find out later, oh, Barry Allen gets his own TV show, and he's the Flash. So you have season 1 of The Mandalorian, small screen Star Wars, big hit. Season 2, you introduce Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano, and you have their primary conflicts interact with your current storyline. In that now they're gonna come out and say, Bo-Katan gets her TV show of retaking Mandalore, and Ahsoka Tano is still fighting Admiral Zhao, but in live action. That's what it's looking like for me. Which may diverge those villains introduced, like Moff Gideon and Admiral Zhao, from the Mandalorian, and the Mandalorian just focuses on Darth Grogu.
Right.
He
I like
already
that.
has the forehead wrinkles for it.
Yep.
He does.
And he's already got the eating
Eating
little
people.
babies, you know.
Did Palpatine just like eat people?
I don't know, but
Uh,
we've seen his dark side already, so
You never see him eat too, so
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, Palpatine? Are you saying that he just eats like...
necromancer, probably.
Yikes.
and then another theory that was thrown out was that they need Grogu's blood in order to properly clone, and that may be how he plays into the big screen is. Well, how do you bring back a dead Palpatine? Well, you just like you mix some midichlorian blood with Palpatine blood, and Palpatine comes back alive.
Boom, there he is.
Yeah. Could be.
And then there's a new movement, the Justice for Yaddle movement.
Who's Yaddle?
So there's 2 members of Yoda's race that we've met before Grogu, Yoda and Yaddle. So like in Phantom Menace, on the Jedi Council with everybody else, is another member of Yoda's race named Yaddle.
Is he the pink one?
No, he's same color. She. I think some things depict her as pink, but the movie didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yoda
So
with
in-
hair.
Huh?
Yoda with hair.
Ah.
Interesting.
So when Ahsoka Tano said, I only know one of his race, a great master Yoda. They
She
said,
lied.
what about Yaddle? You never met Yaddle?
Great Master Yoda.
She wasn't in episode 2, and Ahsoka Tano comes up during the Clone Wars after episode 2, so she could have died before then.
Ah, Yaddle was
Giving
one of
childbirth.
the wimps that couldn't survive that like shootout with droids. That really gets me whenever I think about that. I'm like, that is an army of Jedis,
Yes.
and those are the weakest droids.
Yes.
Have that.
Out of that.
Little plane. What are we looking at?
That's
That's
Yaddle.
Yaddle.
With the wavy hair.
Yoda.
With the mullet.
Okay.
A look.
Force in the back, dark side in no. Force in the front, dark side in the back.
Well, it's all the Force.
Right. Light side, dark side.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot been happening in The Mandalorian.
Yeah. New characters.
I will say that like this season has been pretty direct.
Yep.
Like there's not a lot of in between episodes.
Except for the ice planet with the spiders.
The Ice Planet with the spiders. That's about it.
Yeah.
So it's very good. Were we gonna use the closing prayer from the encyclical?
Yes.
After birthday.
Oh, after
first,
birthdays.
yes.
Yeah.
So we have actually somebody who's in the room tonight. In just 3 hours, he will be 21. Everyone, wish a happy birthday to Theo Lombardi. So
Yeah,
yay,
pops.
happy birthday. We'll sing to you later. And then we also have an alumni, Rachel Benazowski.
Yep.
Yes, Rachel Benazowski.
Former CSU officer.
Yes, former CSU officer. She's wonderful. And then we have Father Drew. Father
Drew
Drew
Woodkey.
Woodkey, yes.
What's
One
the
of our
name of
baby
babies?
priests.
Yes, one of our baby
Baby
priests.
priest?
Yeah.
Do they get a Mandalorian episode?
Everybody learns his name, they're disappointed, you know.
Yeah,
Just like, we're just gonna call you Father.
I would be okay with Drew. For baby.
Drew?
You approve of Drew, but not Grogu?
That is not a Drew.
Okay, before we get too off track here. Okay, so we have Theo, Rachel, Father Drew. We have
My younger sister Sarah,
Anne.
Sarah.
Sarah,
Sarah.
and Amelia, one of the twins, who also messed up the bottliness of this bobblehead.
But we'll let it
We
slide because
know
it's your
it was
birthday.
The saint
Alright.
has been named.
So are we cool on the order that we're gonna go for there? We'll just go for it.
I'm gonna get it right.
All right.
I'm gonna just like
Just
duck my voice down a little bit.
Is that what they tell you to do in choir practice when you don't know the words?
Yes,
Yes.
but they also tell you to know the words.
Maestro. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
dear Theo, Rachel, Drew, Sarah, Ha, and Amelia. Happy birthday to you. Good night.
Good night.
We're gonna pray now.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that.
Excuse me.
We're professionals.
I've done this before.
It's been a week.
You just showed everybody your password.
No, you didn't. You can't see
Everyone
it. Oh,
already
you
knows it.
you kind of can. There's a delay.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. O God, Trinity of love, from the profound communion of your divine life, pour out upon us a torrent of fraternal love. Grant us the love reflected in the actions of Jesus, in his family of Nazareth, and in the early Christian community. Grant that we Christians may live the gospel, discovering Christ in each human being, recognizing him crucified in the sufferings of the abandoned and forgotten of our world, and risen in each of our brothers and sisters who makes a new start. Come, Holy Spirit, show us your beauty reflected in all the peoples of the earth, so that we may discover anew that all are important and all are necessary, different faces of the one human family that God so loves. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
night.
I said good day.